Now, the unsaved professing Christian who is trying to get to heaven by being a good little boy or girl will always go to the epistle written to the 12 tribes of Israel, James, to prove that a man is justified by works. The habitual practice of the apostate in going to James has been so habitual that finally they have printed a Bible in the market that says that James was not written to the 12 tribes. The new Bibles have gone so far to say that James was written to saved Hebrews, or saved Jews, or spiritual Jews. And this was done to cover up the gross and glaring fact and horrible fact that James was written to the 12 tribes, and the people trying to go to hell by good works are quoting James to justify their own self-righteousness. The fact of the matter is, in the great book on the doctrinal status of the Christian, you are told to him that worketh not, but believeth on him and justifieth the ungodly, his faith is counted for righteousness. The righteousness that God justified the sinner with and counts to the sinner is God's own righteousness himself, which he worked for. And he earned as a man, living a perfect life and dying a perfect death. Or as the writer of Hebrews says, though he were a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. And the people who try to justify themselves by James 2 are ignorant of God's righteousness and go about to establish their own righteousness. And as James says, they've not submitted themselves in the righteousness of God, for Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. Now, the forgiveness of sin, the removal of guilt and punishment, is found in this matter of justification. For a holy, perfect God to overlook sin or forgive it is not a small matter. The truth is that God actually delights in forgiving and cleansing iniquity, but he has to have a basis on which to do it. In the Old Testament, the basis was the shed blood of bulls and goats, for without the shedding of blood there's no remission of sins. And although God could forgive and remit sins in the Old Testament, which of course he certainly could, Exodus chapter 34, Hebrews chapter 9, he couldn't clear the guilty sinner until Christ came and died on Calvary's cross. In Micah 7 verse 18 we read, Who is a God like unto thee that pardoneth iniquity and passeth by the transgression of the remnant of his heritage? He retaineth not his anger forever, because he delighteth in mercy. In justification, all of the believer's sins are forgiven, and the guilt and punishment is removed. You may have to pay the rest of your life in the flesh for what you sowed, but eternal punishment is out of the question. The slate is wiped clean, and you are declared to have the righteousness of Jesus Christ. This is why the feeling, experimental, working people who exalt their experience above the Word of God are always trying to perfect themselves and be like Christ in the hope that some way this will help save them. If you were like Christ, you'd go to hell anyway. He was sinless and you're not. He was a member of the Godhead and you're not. The most Christ-like character in history is Satan, the Antichrist. Jesus Christ is called a lion.